Welcome to 5 Minutes, your quick dive into the wide-ranging world of insurance, technology, and leadership. I'm Miguel Edwards, and I'll be your guide as we explore these topics that are transforming not just the insurance industry, but the business world at large. Along with sharing observations I've made over the span of my career in insurance, technology, and operations, I'll be chatting with some of the brightest minds in business and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, an industry expert, or just curious about how technology is revolutionizing insurance, this is your perfect spot for your weekly dose of insights. This is 5 Minutes.
You've had experience with a lot of more tech-forward carriers than I have. I've kind of worked with some of the kind of old, mainstay branch, right?
Okay.
Is there a difference, especially from a product perspective and then from a marketing perspective, with respect to how some of those newer carriers are focusing on the customer versus the policy? I've always complained in my space that we're always way too policy centric and not customer centric.
Yeah.
Well, you said customer like 35 times in our last piece here.
Yeah.
Is there a difference with the way companies like Hippo approach marketing and product development?
Well, I think it's a bit of a luxury, to be perfectly frank, right? We don't have a massive book that we're starting with in the early days. And so we can say, what does the customer need and want before we actually build all of the policy requirements? So I think if you start with the customer first from day one, which again, legacy carriers can't do, they had their day one, some over 100 years ago. So I think it's a luxury that we should continue to optimize against as companies like Hippo get older, and as some companies even step further away from the end customer, right? They'll take a more B2B to C approach, which is not uncommon as insurtechs have matured. They really need to continue to focus on that. I've seen some people lose a little bit of focus there, but I do think that if we run our business like we do at Hippo, where the customer is one of our main KPIs every year, it's at the executive council meetings on a monthly basis. It is the biggest part of our consideration set when we're doing things like building products, we're reviewing reinsurance contracts. Everything comes down to what does the customer need and how can we serve them?
That's awesome. I want to shift a little bit, Andrea, just to more kind of general leadership. And, I kind of, again, looking at your career and this kind of trajectory that you've had, what are some of the biggest lessons that you can offer? Especially I'm thinking about the new generation of leader that's coming up, and they're going to deal with a lot of the stuff that you and I have dealt with. What's some of the most important advice that you can offer from a leadership perspective coming from an executive, carrier executive?
I have a couple of mentees who keep asking me for their path, right? Help me define my path. Right. What does my next 5 years look like? And this is a little bland at start, but I can provide more detail.
Yep.
It's never a straight path, right? And I think the people that try and plot it out, and maybe aside from that group that goes to college to be actuaries and then they become actuaries, in marketing particularly, it's not going to be a straight path. Find what you're really excited about. I love seeing my impact.
Right.
I love being able to work with smart, creative people. Mm-hmm. Culture is really important to me. I didn't know any of that in the first couple of years of my career. When I figured that out, I was able to optimize and ultimately become much more valuable to my executive team, and have a stronger voice and conviction and all of those things. And that led me to where I am today.
Right.
And I think people look at my career path and they're like, oh, look at these great steps. They weren't steps at the time.
Right.
They were explorations. So I do think that it's try not to get too far over your skis.
Yep.
Try and make sure that you're just focused on what can you do in your current role? And then when you exit, what does the next role look like? Don't say it has to happen in X number of months or years and it's got to be perfect. So
was that exploration accidental or was it orchestrated perfectly?
Oh God, it was not orchestrated perfectly at all.
Right.
It was definitely accidental.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the big things that I've leaned on, at least in the last 15 years of my career, is my network.
Yes.
Right. And there's people that were mentees a long time ago that I turn to for mentorship. Right now, I turn around and say, hey, you're younger than me and you have a fresher perspective on this one item. I really want to hear your perspective on this and please train me to start thinking like that. So I optimize to not just my network's opportunities, but where I can add value to them and they can kind of pull me in a certain direction. Usually that's where the exploration has taken me. And I mean, overall, it's worked out well for me.
Yeah.
But I think long term, these have become friends and high value contacts. But I am hoping that I've become a much more high value contact for them too.
Yeah, so that's awesome. There's something you said in there that was so amazing where you don't hear too many, and forgive me for the term, seasoned leaders that talk about going to, right? Talk about going to mentees or going to younger mentees for advice. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. It works, right? Like if I'm just talking to people who think like me and act like me and do the same job as me, we're just going to create a vacuum.
Yes.
And nothing is growing. And the biggest thing that we all need is creativity in our industry. And I think it can really drive growth and customer adoption and understanding and all of the great things that I think should be happening in insurance and are slowly happening. From a marketing perspective, I'm not going to get that from a whole bunch of people that are just like me.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.